Yeah, so a couple QB polls came out, quarterback rankings, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So Bill Simmons debuted his quarterback pyramid, and he had Josh Allen at the top. Dan Orlovsky came out with a bunch of traits that quarterbacks should have, it was about 6, and had Patrick Mahomes number 1 in about the same amount of categories as Daniel Jones. So which one?
Yeah,
it was 0. So which one of these is enraging you more? Which one do you want to hit on
it's
first?
definitely Simmons's, and we're going to deep dive on it because it is not lost on me that my pal, and I like Bill and I have a good relationship, but it is not lost on me that Bill Simmons kind of kicks off his full NFL coverage with a podcast that debuts a quarterback pyramid and whose main guest is Kevin Wildes. I'm not saying that this was a direct shot at me and, trying to pull apart first things first, but I'm not saying it wasn't. So I'll get to Bill in a second. But on Orlovsky's thing, I'm not gonna argue with Dan. Dan obviously knows the quarterback position better than me. What I am going to say is this. Arm strength. He has Josh Allen 1, Patrick 2. No problem. I actually agree with that. And I actually think you could be tricky with that one. There might be, you might be able to say Herbert could be ahead of Patrick. Hell, I don't know if Joe Milton's eligible. Like, he could be like the raw arm strength. Josh Allen 1 is totally fine. No beef whatsoever. Then it gets dumb. Ball placement. Patrick Mahomes, 5 behind Joe Burrow. Again, fine. Jaden, Lamar, and Josh. I think that's a good take. I think a lot of people watch Lamar, Josh, and Jaden, and they're like, they can just put it where they want better than Patrick Mahomes.
I was just thinking, how much of Burrow's is the fact that he has those crazy wide receivers? They're just going to
I think Burrow is, dumb accurate because he has to be because he's not very fast and he doesn't have the strongest arm. So the only way he can be as successful as he is I think Burrow would maybe win the contest of that net drill that Caleb failed the other day. If they did that, but made it harder and harder and harder, I think Burrow might be my number 1 pick. But call me crazy. In that drill, I wouldn't take Lamar over Patrick. Again, maybe I'm a hater. Next one, we get to mechanics, where you list 10 quarterbacks and Patrick's not one of them. And let me tell you, again, he has Lamar 4. Yeah, I watch Lamar play quarterback, and I'm like, man, if only Patrick had as clean of mechanics as Lamar does. I do. I feel that way. I think it's a good take. The other ones, and again, if Geno, Dak, and Goff have better mechanics than Patrick, then maybe mechanics are overrated. But mechanics Patrick didn't make the top 10. Decision making with the football,
that was
Patrick came in 5th. Again, and then this is the one that really I couldn't get over. Pocket presence. Burrow 1, Lamar 2, Patrick 3. Okay. Whatever. I'm not gonna I don't even know what we're doing here. But fine. That's Orlovsky's list. He has a more fine-tuned eye for quarterback than me, I suppose. I think it is. I disagree with some of those, but that's not my real beef. My real beef is with Bill. Because Bill debuts his quarterback pyramid and has Josh Allen at the top. And the problem with that is, and here's the problem with having as long and as successful a career as Bill Simmons has had, and a career that so many folks, myself included, obviously, literally grew up reading every single one of your sports takes. Because Bill's column was must read for every sports fan of my generation for more than a decade. The problem with having that level of influence and having that long of a career is, earmuffs, kids, we remember what you fucking wrote. And for 15 years, Bill fought tooth and nail against the idea that anyone would ever, under any circumstances, consider Peyton Manning better than Tom Brady. Even though for the entirety of those 15 years, Peyton had a far stronger case to be considered better than Peyton Manning. I'm sorry, let me back that up. Peyton had a far stronger case to be considered better than Brady than Josh would have right now to be considered better than Patrick. And this is where all of these quarterback rankings are going to be self-defeating. But let me just quickly, off the top of my damn head, give you the Peyton versus Tom first decade history. When again, a reminder, my pal Bill built part of his massive empire on the take that Tom Brady is better than Peyton Manning. If we go 2000 to 2005, Peyton has peeled MVPs, but Peyton is 0-2 in the playoffs against Tom. Tom has 3 championships. Peyton has none. Peyton has never been to a Super Bowl. So even though Peyton Manning, statistically speaking, was the far superior quarterback with MVPs, he had never beaten Tom in a big spot. The championships were 3-0. Then in 2006, Peyton not only wins he's already won 2 MVPs at that point, plays Tom in the AFC Championship game. Tom's up, I think, 21-3 at halftime. Peyton comes all the way back and wins the Super Bowl. Wins it. Beats Tom. The playoffs are now 2-1. Peyton wins the Super Bowl. And Bill, I think justifiably, is still, even though in that moment, all pros, Peyton has multiple, Tom has 0. MVPs, Peyton has multiple, Tom has 0. The playoff win-loss record is 2-1. The rings are 3-1. Bill is still strident, steadfast, correct. Tom's better. Seemingly vindicated by the fact that the next year, Tom finally wins his first MVP. Team goes undefeated. They look like one of the greatest teams ever until, as double-digit favorites, they get beat in the Super Bowl. In that moment, even though the rings were 3-1, the MVPs were 2-1, the All-Pros were 2-1, or 3-1, I'm not sure, and the playoff win-loss record was 2-1 in Tom's direction. In that moment, if anyone had debuted the take, Peyton has passed Tom because Tom didn't win the Super Bowl last year, Bill's head would have exploded. And then, by the way, over the next decade, Tom never beat Peyton in the playoffs again. There was a brief time in Denver where it looked like maybe Peyton had kind of overtaken the argument. And then Tom went on that unbelievable 2014 through 2020 run to cement himself as the GOAT. But every single football take we have heard for 20 years from Bill Simmons has valued playoff performance, doing it in the biggest spots, and if you've got the belt, someone's got to come take it from you. So when I saw the clip yesterday where the rationale for elevating Josh Allen, who is, again, unlike Peyton Brady, where Peyton had the stats and Brady had the wins, Mahomes has more All-Pros, more MVPs, better career numbers, 5 trips to the Super Bowl to 0, 3 rings to 0, and is 4-0 in the playoffs against him. When I hear the argument that Mahomes played so poorly in the Super Bowl, he falls down a peg, without the obvious follow-up being, why wasn't Josh in the Super Bowl, Bill? Because he couldn't beat Patrick again. And that is where, and again, I think Josh is the second best quarterback in the league. Now that Josh has a league MVP, I'm comfortable calling him a future Hall of Famer. I think Josh eventually is going to break through. I think Josh's ability last year to cut down on the turnovers and still carry a team that wasn't all that talented at the skill position, certainly on the outside, was wildly impressive. But we have to stop acting like these have been unfair fights or Josh hasn't had his chance. In back-to-back years in the playoffs, once in Josh's building, once in Patrick's building, Josh has gotten the ball late fourth quarter, down 3 points. The first time, he can only get them to not the edge of field goal range, but not a gimme field goal, 44-yarder if I remember. And that would have only gotten them the tie with a couple minutes left. Has a chance, finish the game, ball in your hands, don't let Patrick come back and get it. They come away with 0 points. Then last year, down 3, conference championship game, plenty of time, can't get to midfield. So you cannot, and this is why the quarterback ranking stuff right now can be so frustrating for people. Has Patrick played in the regular season his best ball the last couple of years? No. But who are, again, and I've said it before, I will say it again. If you want to argue, you know what? Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the league. I don't think anyone actually believes that, except for maybe Jalen's lovely mother, who dressed me down a bit the night before the Super Bowl. I don't even think Jalen believes that. But if you want to argue that, at least there is a case you can make. But for the other 3 guys, as I said a moment ago, the argument becomes instantly self-defeating. Burrow's claim to fame is what he did in the first postseason and a half of his career. Going into Arrowhead, beating Patrick, getting to the Super Bowl, then getting back to the AFC Championship game. And then he had a pretty miserable second half with a chance to go to a second straight Super Bowl, got the ball, tie game, go get a field goal, got negative yards, loses, and has not been back to the postseason since. There is no time in the history of pro football when there have been multiple first ballot Hall of Famers active in their prime where we would say a guy elevated himself to best quarterback in the league in a 2-year stretch where he plays 0 playoff games. Not eligible. Lamar, who is in the midst of arguably as good of a 2-year regular season stretch as any player at his position ever. When that player, to varying degrees, and this past year was the most positive sign, has come up against the other two guys who he is in the debate with for who's the best, and both games gotten outplayed by and lost to in the postseason, Patrick 2 years ago and Josh last year, he's not going to have it. And across all of sports, except for maybe there were some people arguing Jerry West was better than Bill Russell. But with respect, as great as the Mahomes Reed Chiefs are, they are not the institutionally top to bottom more talented team like the Russell Celtics. We have never made an argument that when every single year for a half decade, one guy beats and outplays another guy in the postseason, that the other guy's better. It's again, for the entirety of Peyton versus Brady, when Peyton was a Colt, that whole decade plus, they only played in the postseason 3 times, and it was 2-1 Tom. And it was still framed correctly as if Tom held over him in the postseason. Imagine if they played 4 times and it was 4-0. And so, again, this is what I would ask my pal Bill. If Tom had beaten Peyton in 2006 and then gone on to lose that Super Bowl, and he was up 3-0 in the playoffs, and the ring count was 3-0, and the Super Bowl count was 4-0, and someone made the argument that Peyton Manning was better based on Tom playing poorly in this make-believe 2006 Super Bowl, what would your reaction have been? And the answer is we know. So can we please have a level of consistency on this? That's all. Honestly, that didn't go quite as long as I thought. And again, I'm not trying to act like I invented the pyramid style ranking of quarterbacks. What I will say is, if you're going to really do it, each level has to be one player bigger than the previous. You can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. That's not the idea. That's not how a pyramid looks either. It's just not. That's a crayon. That's how a crayon looks, not how a pyramid looks. That's first of all. Second of all, my buddy KW could have given you pointers on that when he was on the pod with you.